Once upon a time, there lived a beautiful, curious little girl named Carolyn. She grew up reading fairy tales and watching princess movies. Her parents always encouraged her to dream. Since she was just a little girl, she thought of her Prince Charming. She believed that somewhere out there her soulmate was waiting for her. But eventually time took its toll, and Carolyn started to grow up. As she started experiencing the world around her, images and movies were thrown at her that warped the simple view of a happy ending. The real world began to control her identity. She was told over and over again that you are not good enough, you need to be different, and boys will never want a happy ending like her. Her fairy tales were put away, and makeup and clothes became her main focus. She tried to shape her identity to gain attention. She developed into a very confused young woman. She stopped hanging out with friends and became focused on boys instead. All she wanted in life was that one man she could be with forever. So Carolyn dated, but never right relationships that had trust or compassion. Carolyn graduated high school, and pressures of college came. She was told that she needed to be independent. She was drilled over and over again that you need to make it by yourself before you can make it with another person. She put her heart and soul into school and graduated at the top of her class, but she never felt more alone. And tired of trying to make it on her own, she went out with a young man named Mark. He fit into her schedule and gave her everything she wanted. She was desperate for a lifelong relationship, so she quickly agreed to marry him. She thought she had found the man of her dreams, but it turned out to be the opposite. She was surprised by everything he was hiding from her. Sleepless nights and long fights became their marriage. It was nothing like her childhood fantasy. It seemed like both her and Mark wanted to be in charge. They didn't want each other's help, and they didn't need each other's help. The old-school marriage Carolyn wanted was thrown out the window. It seemed like Mark would only appreciate her when she had something to offer. He only focused on the outcome of their relationship. Once it got hard, he convinced Carolyn it was her fault, and she could never measure up to his high expectations. And soon, her true identity was hidden altogether, while she tried to become what he wanted her to be. And Carolyn got pregnant, and she thought that would fix everything. She had a beautiful baby boy she named Stephen. She poured everything she had into him, but Mark didn't seem to have any interest in his son. And eventually the work got too hard for him, so he filed for divorce. Carolyn saw it coming, but never wanted it to come to this. She felt isolated and more alone than ever. She loved Stephen and wanted a father figure for him as he grew up. She was tired of trying to change herself the world's view. She found herself alone and signing the divorce papers. And even though Carolyn was more than lonely, she truly loved her son, so she became the best mother she could be. And after seeking counseling, Carolyn started to see herself again. She could remember back to her preschool years where her mom would encourage her to dream and be herself. Things began to go her way when she met William. He too has been through the hardship of divorce. They learned to trust each other with their feelings, and instead of looking at what they could get out of a relationship, they focused on the other person. They were not interested in control or power, rather they depended on each other for strength. Dealing with the long-term effects of divorce bonded them, so they understood each other on a level no one else would. William popped the question shortly after they met, and Carolyn couldn't believe it. After these years, she finally found someone who didn't require her to change who she was. Of course, every couple has their struggles, but William truly cared and they were able to get through it. Stephen grew up with a loving father, and Carolyn had a loving husband. They truly found their soulmate. Looking back on her life, Carolyn can smile because all her experiences brought her to where she is today.